Back to all the participants. So as I quickly, I will just recap what I covered in the morning. So I was generally starting with the importance of Industry 4.0. We are today in the throngs of Industry 4.0. Just 1 minute. We are now in Industry 4.0, and in Industry 4.0, we have come to a state where the cyber physical in such a situation, the cyber physical systems are enabling Industry 4.0. And I also told you that in cyber physical systems are generally, somebody is talking. Can you mute everybody?
Sir, I'm doing that, sir. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. I was telling you that in Industry 4.0, it is enabled through the cyber physical systems, CPS. Cyber physical systems, we also call this as smart factory or smart. Still somebody is talking. Yeah, okay. Smart factory and smart manufacturing is the same as Industry 4.0 and cyber physical systems. And I also told you the building blocks of this Industry 4.0 and cyber physical systems are, the biggest backbone is nothing but the IoT. IoT is the backbone of this. Along with IoT, we have 5G as another enabler and building block. We have machine learning as another building block. We have artificial intelligence as another building block. And we have robotics. So these form the bedrock for Industry 4.0 and cyber physical systems. I also told you that, IoT is, there's a cycle. You have learn, act, operate, and sense. The building blocks of IoT are, where you have sensors for sensing items. You have actuators to execute and implement and do actions. You have the cloud for storing so much of storage, because hundreds and thousands of sensors are there. The data from the sensors has to be stored. That you have the cloud, and you have associated hardware and software to execute and implement these IoT systems. And I also told you, we are in a big data kind of revolution. A car itself may have around 100 sensors. Today, in terms of Internet of Things, it is estimated that today we have around 50 billion intelligent items or things in the world. And the population of the planet is around 7.8 billion, which works out to be almost 6 intelligent devices things per human being. So you can imagine how much it has percolated throughout the world. Rather, I also stressed upon the fact that it is not Internet of Things now, it is Internet of everything. Everything is now connected. You can imagine 50 billion intelligent devices throughout the world. You can imagine that number, how big the number is. And on an average 6 per human being. So how the numbers, and that was taken before the COVID time, pandemic. Now it might have accelerated even more. I do not know the exact number today after COVID. Nobody has made a study, but I did tell you that, if you see from less than 1 million, Zoom has reached 500 million plus users in the last 7 or 8 months. So that's the impact. Then I also told you that, one major challenge in IoT, which we are going to see, is the big data issue. Everywhere there is so much of big data. So we have to have a process of converting the data the data has to be converted to information. the information has to be converted to knowledge, and the knowledge has to be converted to intelligence, because you need to do action. I also told you that IoT evolved from M to M, machine to machine systems. Machine to machine had only connectivity and content. You are able to connect two computers. You are able to share the data. You are able to connect your mobile with your laptop and share data. So there was only connectivity and content. But in IoT, the M2M has evolved into a lot more. You have collaboration. You have people talking to each other, taking decisions, decentralized decisions. You have the cloud where all this data is being stored. You have the context, the ambience, the situation, the context-aware situations, and we have the cognition or the semantics and the decision-making thing, because we have to convert the data into information, information to knowledge, and the knowledge to intelligence. We need to use that for making decisions. So this is what I covered. And then I also highlighted some use cases about IoT. I told you that there are so many use cases. Smart retail. I gave you some examples of smart retail, smart healthcare, smart education, smart weather, smart transportation, smart home. So many use cases are there. Like I told you, everywhere and anywhere, IoT has found an impact, and we are only going to see more and more acceleration of this impact of IoT, which is the basic building block of the Industry 4.0 and the cyber physical system. So today, I'm going to look at the second block, the building block of the Industry 4.0, namely the 5G, the high-speed communication network that is enabling this Industry 4.0 and the smart manufacturing. Let me just share my slides. Are you able to see my slides? Are my slides visible?
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, let me just start the presentation. So what is the 5G? 5G is a fifth generation wireless technology, which is very high bandwidth, very high transmission speed, less error, better throughput, better quality of service. And the essence is that this is real, this is not conceptual. For a long time, we have been talking about this in a conceptual level, but now the cat is out of the cat is out. And we are now in the throes of this 5G revolution. Now, fifth generation wireless technology is very much needed to enable this smart manufacturing, to enable the smart factory, to enable smart homes, to enable smart education, to enable smart healthcare, smart retail. Everything requires high speed, high bandwidth, low error, high quality of speed connectivity. And that is provided by the 5G revolution. And it is not anymore a conceptual thing. It has become real to this extent. So what is the current state of 5G? Today we have come to a stage where almost all the major industry players with respect to the mobile handset manufacturers and hardware producers have come to an agreement. Primarily, it is a European-based initiative that has standardized all the protocols, the technology, the handset, the hardware, the associated software, the interoperability, the compatibility of all 5G items. It is a European Telecommunication Standard Institute that has formulated the standards, and almost everybody is on board. Even the top US companies, whether it is AT&T, Bell, Verizon, they are also on board with respect to the 5G, and there is some level of interoperability, some level of dialogue that is happening between these providers and the thing. But by and large, this is a European initiative, and all the major US companies are also on board with respect to this. Now, one major, a major constraint that we are facing today is that it is a transition. Say, all of us are having smartphones. I think majority of us have smartphones. We use our phones a lot. In fact, I'm asking you a question. Do you really use this phone for talking? Right? Do you use it for voice much? Perhaps similarly, do you use a computer for computing? I think it's a conundrum in the sense that we probably use the computer very less for computing. When I say computing, doing math crunching, mathematical operations, crunching, number crunching, and all, we probably use the computer very little as a device for computing. Rather, we use it for all things under the sun. We use it for taking classes. We use it for communication, collaboration. Still somebody is talking. We use it for collaboration. We use it for communication. We use it for all other, we use it for entertainment, watching movies. We use it for text, for almost everything. And computing happens to be a very small part of the whole puzzle. I'm sure if you ask a student, probably the student uses the phone 95% of the time for data-based services, not for voice-based services. Most of the time you will see students, WhatsApping or Facebooking or Instagramming or SMSing. Probably they don't use SMS also. So majority of the time you are using the mobile phone for more of data-based rather than voice services. Maybe as you grow older, you become into middle age, you may be using more and more. But what I'm trying to say is that the very usage is under question, whether we can call it a mobile phone. Rather, people call it a smartphone because we are doing all the activities except telephony in the phone. Telephony may be less compared to the other activities that we are using. So that's how the communication has moved. Today, that shows how important the high speed, high bandwidth, low error, high quality of service network is important for all smart activities, whether it is a smart factory or a smart education or a smart healthcare. And you would want any device or any activity or any service to be available on your phone, right? You're checking the phone all the time. You're checking the phone. Let me be very honest with you. If I am traveling, I probably never open my iPad or my laptop. I am checking all the mails on the fly by the mobile, right? I'm probably never opening the laptop because somebody is traveling, right? Instant messaging or WhatsApping or Facebook, posting updates on Facebook. Probably 90% of the updates are taken on the same mobile phone. I take a pic, I upload. Twitter, everything is done. So this calls for the need for a very high speed. If you want smart factories, if you want smart manufacturing, if you want smart education, if you want smart healthcare, you want smart retail, it is absolutely necessary that we have very high speed data communication network. And that is answered by the 5G. The 5G is fitting like a glove into that scheme of things so as to enable all these things smart. Now, there is a catch in 5G that makes the execution and the implementation slightly difficult. Your existing handsets, whether they be 3G or 4G, will not work on 5G networks. That's a big transition phase. So it is impossible that to make all 7.8 billion people are there on the planet. Perhaps out of them 5 to 6 billion have got mobile phones. One fine morning, it is impossible to completely transfer them to a 5G network because none of their handsets, chipsets will not work. We need a completely new hardware and software, right? We need a completely new hardware and software for that. So this is a catch that we are going to see with respect to the 5G networks. We will have to have totally new chipsets and handsets for this. And that is something, this thing. And these chipsets and handsets will be running from anything above north of 10 gigabits per second to up to 100. Different test beds have different speeds. I mean, a lot of 5G work is going on, different test beds gigabits per second. Different test beds have different models. So that is the promise, so as to speak, of 5G. So this is what I've been trying to tell you. Worldwide cellular phones, all over the world, cellular phones. Your mobile phone will work anywhere in the world. There will be no problem. It will be seamless interoperability, seamless data capabilities. Wherever you go, you have this door. You won't have this problem. High connectivity, high bandwidth, more features, more power. Some noise is still coming. Okay. Worldwide cellular phones, better data capabilities, high bandwidth, high speed, low power, high connectivity, better memory, better dialing speed, more clarity. A whole lot of things are there in the, in these worldwide cellular phones that will be enabled by 5G. Now, today, when you are traveling abroad, it is actually a pain. To be very honest, either you need to have a phone that works everywhere, that's another issue. But assuming you have an interoperable phone, you need to have a lot of discussion. See, a couple of years back, if I remember, I was on some study in India. I was part of the Indian delegation to Nepal and Bhutan. As soon as I reached Nepal, the phone stopped working. It's an official phone given to me by the university. But the more I make calls through a friend's phone, it doesn't connect at all. Some problem between the local Nepal some network and BSNL. That time I wasn't on a BSNL. It's an official phone connection. When I reached Bhutan, as soon as I reached Paro airport, the phone started working. So many issues, interoperability. Couple of years back, going to the US. As soon as I reached US, it took me 1 day for the BSNL connection to be connected to Verizon because I'm using an official connection. So many interoperability. One service provider has to talk to the other service provider, value-added services, different models for data, different. See, suppose you ask for an interoperable from BSNL to Verizon Wireless in America. The cost of phone calls are not very expensive. You can manage somehow, but WhatsApp calls become highly expensive. Very, very expensive. In fact, WhatsApping and using data is so expensive in the US when you're transferring from an Indian connection to a foreign connection. So it's better that when you go to the US, if you are having an BSNL phone or an official phone, tell them that only enable the data voice. Don't enable the data. The data you can use Wi-Fi because everywhere in the US Wi-Fi is very rampant and you get Wi-Fi better. So these are small things but they make a lot of difference. You can imagine, one fine morning you come down, the data bill is 7,000 to 10,000 rupees. And obviously, even though I'm not paying, what I'm saying is it's a big pain on whoever is going to pay. So these kind of issues are there. But all that, we are hopeful that all of these will completely vanish when the 5G revolution happens. Now, this is what I've been trying to tell you. Please note that all these numbers are pre-COVID. right? Pre-COVID time, all these numbers are pre-COVID times, right? None of these numbers are during the COVID timing, not considering that COVID. So today the estimation is that at least an estimation made a few years back was that we would have something like 4.6 billion mobile phones. But I think that number would be much, much higher now because of the COVID pandemic and the embracing. It was estimated to have something like 18 billion SIM connections. Maybe it would have crossed 25 billion. So some conservative estimates are that we are having something like, for a population of 7.8 billion people, perhaps we may be having something like 6 billion mobile phones today. Between 5.8 to 6.1 billion mobile phones throughout the world. That is the current state. And obviously the pandemic has accelerated that also. So everybody, almost every single person on the planet is having a mobile phone. Out of that, the interesting thing is that almost 60% or 60 to 70% have smartphones. Maybe that number would have been now much increased to 75% of the people who are having mobile phones. So if 6 billion people have mobile phones, perhaps 4.5 billion of them have smartphones. Smartphones where you have both data and voice-based services. So these numbers are all off. They were all written during COVID times. Now everything is probably changing. See, in terms of data traffic, maybe we would have had a 15 times more traffic that we had, 13 to 15 times more than what we had in the last 5 years or so. So it is only going north. It is going very much plus, and the number of mobile phone connections, the number of SIM cards, the number of smartphones, the number of data traffic, the number of video traffic, streaming services, all that is shooting through the roof. So 5G has this promise. It is an end-to-end ecosystem to enable a fully mobile and connected society, which nothing is what I meant by the smart revolution, the smart factory, the smart car, the smart home, the smart factory, the smart manufacturing, the smart logistics, the smart education. So this 5G is very critical as a building block for the Industry 4.0 revolution. It's very important. And we are going to see astronomical number of, once the 5G comes, we are going to see astronomical increase. You never know. Now we are talking of something like 6 billion mobile phones. Within a very little time, that 6 billion, when things become more and more affordable, the 6 billion may become, one per human being, 8 to 10 billion mobile phone. We are going to see 1,000 times more increase in the data services. We are going to see 100 times more connected devices. We are going to see all this, and this 5G revolution is here to stay, is here to make a huge impact. Now, how did we come through this? I'll quickly trace you through the path, how we moved from 1G to 5G. Now, if you see the 1G services, 1G services started developing in the 1980s and got completed in 1990s. Totally analog system with a speed of 2.4 kbps. And one of the first systems was the AMP system, the Advanced Mobile Phone System, that was launched in the US. Even now, if you this big handset, this gigantic phone, for 1G. And one major disadvantage was that you could only make calls within the country. If you want to, you can't go, you can't use it outside the country. For that, you still need to use a trunk call. I don't know, in the 80s or 90s, you may recall, maybe you would have seen your parents or calling their relatives by booking a trunk call. That was the only way to talk to somebody in US or in the Gulf. You need to book a trunk call. Then came the 2G services, which was the first digital systems developed in the 1980s and completed in the 1990s. We hear from 2.4 kbps, we could reach a speed of almost 64 kbps. Some value-added data services were added. These included voice and digital voice, voiceover, some limited voice over IP, SMS services, and to some extent, these 2G phones are what is that? The base that all our smartphones are based on. Today, 2G have the first digital systems, and 3G and 4G are only enhancements of this 2G system, and some limited interoperability was there. If I recall right, I'm not so sure, but if I recall right, the phone that we used in India, the mobile phones, the early 2G, 3G phones, they would work in Singapore, they would work in the Commonwealth countries, but many of them, they wouldn't work in US. US, you needed a quad band phone. It doesn't work in the US, the more early mobile phones, Nokia handset and all. Because I think we were mostly, initially when we started out, it was GSM and they were using CDMA. So those kind of issues were there. Yeah, this is how the first phone. So in 2G, two kind of technologies were there, GSM and CDMA. Primarily, US and all were using CDMA. Commonwealth countries, Europe were mostly towards GSM. Some countries were having both. But it was a big challenge also. So I believe Reliance started, not this Reliance communication, the earlier Reliance, I don't know what is the name. They used, started CDMA in India. Now coming to the 3G. 3G, of course, in the late 1990s, they came and it went on till the 2000. Now the speed jumped up to around 2 Mbps. Now you have had, you can do a lot of value-added services. You could do some sort of video chat, streaming, video conferencing, some value-added services, shopping, limited e-commerce, banking, games, and there was global roaming. You had a quad band, it's called a quad band phone. You could use it anywhere in the world, but not all handsets come with quad band. You need to do, some cases they come with tri-band and all. Tri-band, I think, works in the US, but quad band, tri-band, I think it used to work in the US. But quad band, all over the world, you could use those mobile phones. Then, of course, 4G. Even today, we are now in this 4G thing from 2010 till present date. We are mostly, all of us are using 4G phones. We are probably using 3.5. I mean, today's generation, we probably are using 3.5. .5G means the phones are somewhere between 4G and 5G, but they have some more speed and bandwidth and features, but they are not near the 5G bandwidth level at all. Up to 100 Mbps are only there. Maybe 4.5G, some may have reached a little more higher, but they are obviously more faster, reliable, high performance. You can see videos, you can chat, you can do all these Zoom meetings, and you can do Cisco WebEx meetings, all on your 4G mobile phones. And a lot of data-based services, data value-added services, apps, all these can. So we are today, even today in the 4G. We have not at all migrated to 5G, but when we migrate, we will need to completely switch over to all the new mobile phones, to completely move over to new mobile phones and new services, so as to speak. So one fine morning, it is not going to happen. There will be a transition period where we will be slowly migrating towards 5G. Maybe that migration period may be 4 to 5 years, where all the present users, 3G, 4G users will migrate to 5G phones. It may even take 7, 8 years because people have to be affording also.
Sir?
I think I understand your time to change. Right?
Yeah, sir. I will restart the session, sir.
Yeah, please do that. Yeah.
Participants, please kindly rejoin using the same link.